Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week we're talking about decide who you're going to be before the season decides for you. Last week we talked about the stories we write in our heads and how things are supposed to go according to what we think. We think about how much we're going to play or what job we're going to get or where we're going to hit in the lineup or what our senior year will look like, or who knows, all the things that run through our crazy mind up there and the things that we think are supposed to happen. And then reality shows up with absolutely no interest in following our script. And we talked about asking an important question. Is this actually wrong, or is it simply different from what I expected? But I ended last week's tip with another thought. We spend a lot of time deciding how we think things are supposed to go. Maybe we'd be better off if we spent a little more time deciding who we're going to be, no matter how they go. So let's talk about that. Because most of us don't intentionally decide that we're going to, be something before things start happening. Instead, we make deals with our circumstances. If I'm scoring, I'll be confident. If I'm starting, I'll be a leader. If the coach believes in me, I'll believe in myself. If we're winning, I'll bring energy. If things go my way, I'll stay positive. It's easy then. Okay, nobody really actually says those things out loud, but that if-then or these if-then things become reality pretty quickly. And there's the problem. The minute I say, if this happens, then I'll be confident, positive, aggressive, engaged, a great teammate, a great coach, or whatever, I've handed something I control over to something that I don't. Great performers do the opposite. They decide who they're going to be before the season gets the opportunity to decide for them. They decide who they're going to be before the season asks them to prove it. Long before the first game or the first presentation or the first mistake, the first tough loss, they're already making that decision. I will be resilient. I will be a great teammate. I will be coachable. I will compete with energy. I will bring energy to wherever I go. I will be someone that people can count on and trust. None of those statements depend on playing time, stats, positions, outcome, or anything that they can't control. These are choices. So psychologist Ben Hardy writes that your identity shapes your behavior far more than your behavior shapes your identity. In other words, we don't consistently rise to our goals. We consistently behave in ways that align with who we believe we are. If we want to be who we say we want to be, at least, that's what happens, right? Research supports this idea. Easy for me to say, self-determination theory developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan that has consistently shown that people who are more motivated, persistent, and resilient when their actions align with their personal values rather than external rewards like praise, rankings, or playing time. Think about that. When your identity becomes, I'm someone who competes with relentless effort, your motivation no longer depends on whether you're in the starting lineup or whether you won the last point or whatever went your way. You compete because that's who you are. So the other day, my sister sent me Roger Federer's Dartmouth commencement speech. And I've watched it before, but I recognized something in it this time. Federer explained that he won almost 80% of the 1,500 and so singles matches that he played during his career. But do you know what percentage of the individual points that he won? Only 54%. That means one of the greatest tennis players of all time lost almost half the points he played. Had Federer allowed each lost point to determine who he was, how confident he felt, or how fully he committed to the next one, we probably wouldn't know him as the champion that he is. His identity could not be, I'm the player who wins every point. It had to be something closer to, I'm the player who fully commits to what I'm doing now. That's the difference between allowing outcomes to define us and deciding how we will respond regardless of the outcome. Psychologist Stephen Hayes, founder of ACT, Acceptance Commitment Therapy, takes us one step further. Rather than asking, how do I feel today? He encourages us to ask, what kind of a person do I want to be in this moment? That's a really powerful question if you think about it, because feelings and circumstances, roles and momentum, those all change, but values don't. Researchers have also found that our intentions become much stronger when we make them specific. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer, known for his work on implementation intentions, which I love, demonstrated that people are far more likely to follow through when they decide in advance exactly how they'll behave in situations that they're anticipating encountering, instead of saying, oh, I'll try to be positive. They decide, when I make a mistake, I'll take one breath, I'll stand tall, and I'll sprint to the next play. That's our mistake ritual in itself. Instead of, I want to be a better teammate, they decide every practice, I'll encourage at least 3 teammates. I'm working through this right now with a swimmer who qualified for the state meet as a freshman. She's really good. But too often, the way she feels, the circumstances around her, the expectations about how the race should unfold begin dictating how she performs. So we're working on reconnecting her with the swimmer she already proves herself to be almost every day in training. That's resilient Maddie. She trains far more often than she competes, which means we have plenty of evidence to see who resilient Maddie is. Resilient Maddie works, she responds, she finishes difficult sets. She keeps going when things don't feel perfect. She's already trained herself to decide how she'll behave during uncomfortable moments in practice. Now, the challenge is carrying that same identity into competition rather than allowing it one little split or one mistake or one unexpected circumstance to decide who she becomes in the race. That's where identity becomes real. When it shows up in behavior, especially when circumstances tempt us to abandon who we say we are. So last week we talked about being careful about writing the entire story before it happens. We did that with the mini bike, remember? Because reality rarely shows our script through exactly. This week, I'm asking us to write something different. Instead of writing the story of everything that's going to happen, let's write the story of who we're going to be while it's happening. We can't always hold reality to our expectations, but we can hold ourselves to our standards. So as we approach this new season, we'll all be better if we finish this sentence. This season, I will be a person who. We aren't writing about winning or stats or awards. We're writing about something no opponent or coach or circumstance can take from us. Then, if we can identify 3 daily behaviors that prove that, we can lock them in. And our brain will start looking for opportunities to do these things. That RAS is chasing it. For example, this season, I will be a person who competes with relentless effort. My proof? All right, I sprint between every drill. I recover immediately after mistakes. I encourage one teammate every practice. You can turn this into a coach's thing as well. These behaviors become our evidence, and the evidence builds confidence. The season will eventually tell us whether we won, whether we started, whether we reached our goals, whether we were coach of the year. And last week we talked about the fact that some of it will probably look different than the story that we pictured in our head, if not all of it. But different doesn't mean wrong, and different doesn't get to decide who we become. If we want to be our best, we don't need to wait for the season to tell us who we are. We get to decide that first. So, whatever story we're telling ourselves, whatever circumstance there is, we know the things that trip us up. These are the things that I talk to my teams about, to my individual clients about all the time. What are the things that you are going to experience? And what are the things that keep you from being your best? Because if we can anticipate these things and decide who we're going to be when that shows up, we've already don't have to work. We're ready to go. We know certain things are going to happen. We don't know exactly when or exactly what it's going to look like, but we know that we can decide who we want to be in that moment. That is up to us. So think about how this might help you as you go through the beginning of the season, whatever your season looks like. If you'd like to talk about anything else about mental performance training, send me an email, juliej@ssbperformance.com. I'd love to connect. Until next week, have a great week or not. Choice is yours.